Well, hello everybody. This is Jeffrey Cranford, president of Lynx Players International, and I have the privilege of doing this next 4 weeks with you with one of our national board members, Mark Olson, affectionately known as Oli. Oli from Minnesota, with 42 years as a trial attorney, and did another 10 years as an adjunct professor teaching advocacy at one of the law schools there. And we are privileged to have you with us, Mark, today. And I'm excited about this little series. And so I want to get this thing started, but I'm going to throw it back to you.
Well, it's great to be here, and thanks for having me. Oftentimes, Jeff, when I'm out on the course, either playing a match or playing with my buddies,
Yeah.
I feel like a victim sometimes. I'll just hit a great drive down the middle, and I get up to the ball, and it's in a divot.
Right.
Not even a sandfield divot, just a plain old divot, or the ball will take a bad hop. In your experience, in your playing, when you're on the course, do you ever feel like a victim?
You know, most often, I think I always feel like a victim, but I'm usually a victim of my own making. But yeah, there are those number of times that I look back, having missed a shot just by a bit, and if it was, 1 foot left or right, but there was one particular tournament I was playing in, and I was kind of struggling. It was when I was trying to make a living playing. And there was a particular tournament, and second round, I had played a great first round and had a really great second round. Shot like 64.
Wow.
Got into the clubhouse. It had kind of been a rough day. The weather was rough. The weather was going to get a little rougher in the afternoon. And I thought, man, I really move up the board and have a chance to compete. And a number of us finished, and then the whole second round got washed.
Oh.
And I completely felt like a victim. Some of the guys just raised a big stink, and anyway, they end up canceling this tournament. The guys were so offended. I didn't get into that. Fortunately, I'd already packed my car and left. But it was just one of those. It felt victimized. It's like, how could this possibly happen to me? So the question back to you, Oli, is my question to you as a trial attorney. And you defending guys, is there anybody that you felt so passionately? I know you did a lot of individual, you did some corporate stuff too, but is there somebody that you felt so passionately, like this person is innocent, I have to do my job here, because I can't imagine this person, knowing what I know, I cannot imagine this person, either paying a fine or spending time behind bars.
Yeah. Over the course of my career, a number of occasions, I didn't do a lot of criminal work, but in 1997, my law partner and I, with the blessing of our firm, undertook the representation of a gentleman on death row in Alabama. Now, our client was not innocent, as you would. He did the crime, no question about it. He killed his ex-wife and his father-in-law on Christmas Eve, but he was a victim. He was a victim of the mental health system in Alabama, and he was a victim of the judicial system in Alabama, of how he was treated once he was brought to trial. And so Mike, my partner, and I undertook to represent him on a pro bono basis, and our goal was to try to get his conviction overturned so that he could be institutionalized in a mental health facility where he would be treated well. Failing that, our job was to keep him alive as long as possible. And, the system in Alabama, and as you're probably aware through the southern states, the death penalty belt, is such that you just don't have a chance. I mean, every day you just lose hope. And all we would do, we'd just dig in and fight and fight and fight, and we kept fighting, and we kept Jeff alive for 23 years.
Wow.
And other people, I mean, a woman whose husband was killed in a traffic accident, terrible traffic accident, and she's left with 4 foster children, and trying to find a way to provide, you can't bring her husband back, or the father of these kids back, but you can perhaps help them financially to set them up for the rest of their life. Those were instances where I had victims where they didn't do anything wrong because of but were harmed.
Well, Oli, what insight does that give you into the judicial process that went down as it relates to Jesus?
There's a significant number of parallels between Jesus's arrest, trial, and execution to our whole system now, as I look at it. But the takeaway is Jesus was a victim. He did nothing wrong, and yet he was killed because the civil authorities said he ought to be crucified.
And yet he wasn't looking to get off.
Well, that's the difference between Jeff and Jesus, my friend Jeff. So, having said that, how do you react to this notion Jesus was innocent?
Well, the entirety of Scripture, from Genesis 3, from the fall, to Revelation 22, actually, to completion, is this picture, and we see it in Revelation, the lamb, the unblemished lamb that was slain.
Yeah.
You see the killing of the animals in Genesis chapter 3 is a prefiguring of the cross. These animals had nothing to do with the sin that occurred in the garden, and yet they were given as innocent victims, given for the removal of sin, or the covering of sin, I should say, removal in the case of Jesus, the covering of sin from the very beginning. It's the total arc of Scripture, is that the innocent is going to give his life for the guilty, which always speaks to the greater character of God.
So, Jesus, in a sense, was a victim of our sin.
He was a victim of our sin and a willing victim of our sin. John 10 says, Jesus, I lay down my life on my own initiative, but I also have the power to raise it back up.
Unlike our legal system.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So I'm excited to go ahead and continue this series, Oli. And the next one we're going to get a little bit deeper into this holding court idea from a biblical perspective. And we see God as judge. We see Jesus as a willing
Exactly.
victim. We see us as being really, we're on trial, and yet we're relieved from it. So there's a lot of judicial language in the Word. I'm excited to dig a little bit deeper as we go through this.
I look forward to it.
Thanks a lot, Oli.